opens with not that, but pawn to c4. And for those of you who have seen my previous game on Lead Chess, where I upload my rapid games, I said that I really have no idea how to play against the English. I just played hyper-accelerated dragon against any line of the English, and sometimes it worked well, sometimes it doesn't. Here you will see a very interesting approach on how to counter the English. We have knight to f6, knight to f3, and pawn to e6. Sorry about that. We have pawn to g3, and now pawn to d5. So the Eisencourt defense transposing into the Neo-Catalan. We have bishop to g2, bishop to e7, and both players castles. So castles, and now we are back into the standard Eisencourt defense of the English. We have pawn to b3, preparing to fianchetto the other bishop as well, or maybe even offer a trade of dark square bishops. And now pawn to d4. Here, c5 is the most popular, then b6, but Miaoyi goes for pawn to d4. She's just that kind of a player. Pawn to e3, challenging the central pawn, and now pawn to c5, just nicely defending. We have e captures on d4, c captures on d4, and rook to e1. We have knight to c6, and now bishop to e3, offering to trade the dark square bishops, and now pawn to a5. Just making sure that the white pawns remain as they are, as you'll see how important that is. And here you could consider some moves. You consider d3, bishop captures on e7, maybe even queen to e2, just a nice to continue development. But here we have pawn to d3, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So pawn to e5. Grabbing more space in the center, queen to d2, developing. You really have to figure out what to do with this queen, and now knight to d7. And you can't really be happy with white with this position. You have a weird setup for your pieces. The knight, not a lot of great squares. The queen also not doing the great. It's hard to get the knight into the game, and you have a backward pawn on d3. So pawn to h4. You have to try something. When there is nothing left, you go after the king. Pawn to h6 and pawn to h5. We have rook to e8, and now queen back to d1, meaning that there's really not all that much the queen has to do on d2. But now look at this: just bishop captures on a3, knight captures, and now knight to c5. And from a positional standpoint, this game is already lost for white. The other knight is coming to b4. It will put more pressure on the d3 pawn, and white has nothing to do this game but to wait and see how black will continue. Okay, knight stage 4, of course. He will try knight to b4, putting pressure on the d3 pawn, and bishop to f1. This light square bishop that was white's strongest piece now becomes a passive defender on f1. Queen to g5, getting the queen into the game. And again, what is white to play here? We have knight to b5, threatening the fork with knight to c7, but just bishop to g4, attacking the queen. And now you can't even offer a queen trade, because you really have to keep an eye on that d3 pawn. So queen to b1, defending the pawn, and now queen to d2. Also e4 is very strong. I'm just going to show it because this game is over so quickly. I have very few lines to show, but yeah, you can also do this and play d3. And you put the other rook to d8, you're going to advance the pawn and win the game this way. But queen to d2, also very nice, and very straightforward, just going after the d3 pawn. And Miaoyi was also much better on time. Well, not much better. She was 35 minutes on the clock, whereas Daniel was some 21 minutes on the clock. And now, what happens if you go after the rook? Well, it's a similar position than what we actually got in the game. But here he would capture the d3 pawn, and after, let's say, bishop captures and knight captures, attacking the rook. The knight and the bishop control all of the squares here, so you really have no squares for that rook. You have to bring it back to f1. And now e4, it doesn't matter if you capture rook, captures, and this is, e3 is coming. This is completely busted for white. So here, Daniel tried pawn to f3, and now we have bishop captures on h5 and knight to c7. So he does win the exchange, but at what price? Knight b captures on d3, rook to e2, not capturing the knight, but capturing with the bishop also doesn't help. So rook to e2 was played, attacking the queen. And there's only one good move, or rather one move that wins the game for Miaoyi, but it's not a very difficult one to find, because if you go to c3, then knight d5, and your queen is basically trapped. You have to play queen to c1 and then give up the well, the queen and knight for the queen. If it were to b4, well, it is a very nice square, and it does stop white from playing b4. There's really no future for this queen there, and then there's queen g5, which of course wins the game as it comes with the threat of queen captures and g3. So here, knight captures and e8 was played, sort of inviting queen captures and g3, but here it would be a bit premature if you just snatch it upon then rook g2, and then the knight comes back into the game. So this would be pretty bad. Or even after a queen captures, you can also capture on g7 if queen captures the knight here, and then, well, maybe you can still play this, but it's not winning or anything. But after knight captures an e8, rook captures an e8, it is the best reply, and king to h2, just defending the g3 pawn. Now comes pawn to e4. Again, what do you play? You can't really capture, the rook would hang on e2. What else is there? If you can't capture with the rook, the knight would just capture the rook. So pawn to a3 is played, when in doubt, just prepare pawn to b4. And now pawn to f5. We have bishop to h3. Now comes knight to f4, a beautiful move that forces white to basically resign here. If you capture the knight, which was not played in the game, then queen captures an f4 check is played, or even queen captures an h4 is enough, but queen captures an f4 is nicer. You're going to capture the knight next, now you're threatening the bishop, and after the rook defends, you can capture an f3 with check. Basically, you fall apart here. If the bishop to g2, you can even capture, bishop captures, king captures, queen to g4 check. And now the pawns will just do their bidding, so nothing to be done here. So here, rook back to e1 was played, and now knight captures on h3, king captures, and bishop captures on f3. And again, if you capture with the knight, then just e captures on f3. And look at this, if rook captures on e8, you can even give up the rook with check here. King to f7 attacks the rook and threatens queen to h5 checkmate as the pawn covers the g2 square. So you would have to try and escape with the king, but you still can't. Queen d2 check. And again, this will be checkmate if you go to g1 or h1, or if you go up the board, then it's merely a mating 2. Again, the h6 prevents the king from coming to g5. So after bishop captures an f3, white is left with nothing, but you will throw in a nice b4 before you resign. Queen to g4 with check, king to h2, and now pawn to f4. Even offering the knight here. But if the knight is captured, of course, queen captures and g3 is mate in 1 due to the bishop covering the h1 square. So after f4, knight captures and f3 was played, and now queen captures and g3 with check. King to h1, queen captures and f3 with check, king to g1. And now, of course, the queen controls the f-file. It's time to bring the last attacker into the game. Rook to e6, rook to e5, also very nice. Rook to e6 was what Miaoyi played. And now, of course, it's a matter of rook to g6 check followed by queen to h5 checkmate, and whatever you do, that will happen, unless you play something like queen captures on e4, but then you're just being weird about it. Oh, here, rook to a2 was played, going down with dignity, rook to g6 check, king to h2, and now queen to h5 with checkmate. So, yeah, I mean, look at this position, black being done, the exchange with pawns so far advanced, 3 passed pawns here, checkmated with the ladder checkmate, or whatever it's called. Just crushing a grandmaster like this with the black pieces in the Agincourt defense of the English, a most impressive feat by 14-year-old Miaoyi. And with this victory, I already mentioned that she has great chances of going into the top 10. She's definitely into the top 10. But we're going to cover at least one more game from this run, and then we're going to check out the standings after round 7. But yeah.